Sorry, Dzień dobry, that's my only Polish, sorry. I suppose what the ambassador said was great. I agree with everything. But yeah, sorry, that's not, oh, fantastic, this is working. Okay, thank you, Sebastian, Marta, Tomasz for the invitation, and everybody at the Warsaw Enterprise Institute. I really appreciate being here, and also I'm very happy that you want to know a little bit more about what's going on in our beautiful country, which is not famous for libertarian policies, at least not for a long time. What I want to do in the next 15 minutes or so, I'll try to go quickly, is just try to explain you fast why Milei won, what he's been doing in his administration in the last year, and what could be coming for 2025. Before that, a little bit of propaganda. I am the CEO of We Are Innovation. We Are Innovation is a network of currently 49 think tanks, foundations, and NGOs. The Warsaw Enterprise Institute is one of our partners, and we are very proud and thankful because of that. And as our name indicates, we defend innovation, human creativity. We believe innovation can do a lot to solve some of the most pressing issues that we are facing today. And we like to focus on issues that are both innovative but also have a very profound and very positive human impact. If you want to know more, please visit weareinnovation.global. I'll be here all night. Also, my colleague Dania is here as well, and we can talk, or you can go to our website. So let's start. And this is, by the way, the seminal work of We Are Innovation back in late 2019. We had great plans for 2020, which didn't happen, like every plan that everybody had for 2020. But that's for another conversation. We conducted a survey, an opinion poll in 5 Latin American countries, probably the biggest, most important to many metrics. Argentina, in strict alphabetical order, Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, and Mexico. And what we wanted to know was what people felt about innovation, how they saw innovation impacting in their own lives. It was not a study which country had more venture capital or more startups, just what the people in the country felt about. And as you can see, in Argentina, 85%, the results were very good in general. And this makes me very optimistic. This made me very optimistic in 2019. And some people thought over-optimistic, maybe not. We'll see. But I'm very optimistic for the future of the region in general. And for instance, 85% of people in Argentina claimed that innovation was extremely important, was crucial for job creation and economic growth. This was in total contrast with everything. There was a huge gap between what the civil society wanted, and I think this is a topic in other Latin American countries, but this is for another discussion. But there was a huge gap between what Argentinians wanted and what the political class was offering. The political class was offering not what people... I really like this quotation by Peter Thiel. For the future to have power over the present, it has to be different from the present. And in Argentina, there was no future available, basically. The best was managed decline. I mean, this is something also to think about Europe, but again, for another conversation. The worst was like absolute decline, and there is nothing that we can do. There was only one voice who was basically offering a different future, a future that was different from the present, and that was Javier Milei. In that sense, I think the vote for Milei was the vote that was more, and I have talked to Jan about this, sorry, Jan, that you have listened to this already. I think the vote for Milei was the most reasoned out vote ever in the last elections. Because people really, Milei was very clear. Just to give you an example, Milei in his campaign was saying that he wanted to reform labor laws in Argentina to make firing easier. Because in Argentina, having an employee is like having a son, more or less, or something like that. You have to keep it at least for 18 years and maintain it. That is something that was extremely necessary because labor laws were very rigid, but it's not something that will make you win an election in general. Milei's campaign, to a certain extent, was like suicidal. Why did he win? I think because he was offering a future that was different from the past, and he was in tune with what people wanted. That makes me very optimistic. And also because he was very clear, and that gave him a very strong mandate. The chainsaw thing, which was very funny, was also misrepresented. It's a very clear metaphor of what Milei was going to do. Major surgery, that's what it meant. And again, he was very clear. It's a very clear metaphor. Nobody can say, oh, I voted for Milei, I didn't know what he was going to do. No, he was very clear what he was going to do. And the chainsaw has been working a lot. And by the way, big shout out to Universidad Francisco Marroquín. If you don't know them, they do an amazing job, and they have this Milei Reform Watch, which, by the way, gave me all the graphs in English, so I'm very thankful. But besides, my laziness, they're doing an amazing job, and I really recommend you to follow what Universidad Francisco Marroquín is, a Guatemalan organization, a university. They're doing an amazing job in general. And regarding Milei, they're putting a lot of very good material. One of the things that Milei has achieved quite quickly is that when Milei took office, inflation was, in December alone, 25.5%, 1 month. But in a year, it was, going to be more than 200%. It was on the brink of hyperinflation or already hyperinflation. The last government, previous Milei, spent 10 billion of national money, by the way, in handouts and other fiscal shenanigans, to try to get themselves elected. Is probably, at least in modern times, the most expensive campaign ever. it was very expensive for us, for sure, but as you can see, 25.5%, and in 1 year, 2.4%. Milei has, of course, tackled spending a lot and also has dramatically changed how the central bank is operating. The central bank in Argentina, for a very long time, has operated as, we have a beautiful bar upstairs, as the bartender of a fiscal alcoholic, which was the government. And well, that brought that resulted in that. So that's no more. Another show of how things are changing. The exchange rate. The Polish, let's say, the zloty to the euro is more or less 4-1. In Argentina, there was an official one, and there was a real one, the open market one. When Milei took office, the difference between those two were 200% almost. Now is 6 points. It's almost inexistent. I cannot believe it, and I will tell you a little bit more about this later, but this tells you again how things are stabilizing, converging, normalizing. Argentina, the country risk, the spread that you pay compared to the US, it was almost, I think it was 25%. It was like 2,500, or I don't remember in points how much it is, but it was 25%. Now it's less than 8. It's 7. This is a double-edged sword because Argentina has a history with debt. But in any case, this shows you how confidence has. By the way, below 10%, it means that the international markets are open for you. That's good. Milei is not, the administration is not taking debt, but this is a very good sign. Hopefully, this will continue to decline. This will open the private sector to international credit, which is great. Hopefully, the government will be far from it. And the low country risk and the lowering of the country risk has to do definitely a lot with this number and the one that I'm going to show you later. Milei has achieved, the administration has achieved a primary surplus in a year after many years of total disaster. In 2023, the last government left a primary deficit of minus 2.5%. And now it's 1.7, so it's a 4.5, let's say, jump in the positive direction. And it has gone even further than, let's say, a balanced budget when you match revenue and spending. If you put payment of servicing the debt, which in the case of Argentina, it's a hefty, payment, it's already on the surplus area and coming from minus 4.5. So again, It's almost a 5% jump in a year, 5-point jump. Another very good, there is multi-causality for this, but this shows you again how the administration is creating an environment in which things are easier. There can be long-term thinking, and there can be, people don't feel suffocated by regulation, by taxes, and by craziness, basically. The export volume for Argentina is jumping. It has this, I think it's until October or September, it's 31% up, is doing well. This gentleman I want to introduce you to, this is Federico Sturzenegger. Milei likes to call him a colossus. He's definitely a deregulation colossus. He's the Minister of Deregulation and State Transformation, and he's waging a war against red tape in the country, and he's definitely doing the biggest and most comprehensive program of deregulation that Argentina has had in its history. At the base of what he's doing are a decree that he basically wrote. He was, I believe, researching for 7 months in order to write a decree to, scrap a lot of red tape, laws that were 200 years, but not 200 years were too much, laws that were very old and were not doing anything, but just being used sometimes to create hurdles. And also the basis law that Milei got approved by Congress, which was a major political success for him, that also, by the way, gives the administration, this is totally legal and constitutional, but gives them powers for a year. He still has like 200 days or more to, let's say, fast-track certain reforms that have to do with deregulation. One of the most celebrated reforms, and this appeared in media because the change was so dramatic and visible, was Argentina's housing market, particularly related renting, was brutally regulated. If you had a property, it was better to marry your tenant than to sign a contract with them, because the obligations were way less if you just married them. Just having a tenant, it was really like you basically could lose your property at any moment, at least for a very long time. This was basically deregulated. There were the jump of property offered just in Buenos Aires alone. It surged 178%. And there were people saying, oh no, but this is going to be the end of the world, because now it's the law of the jungle, now it's the market. Rents have risen, of course, they were very repressed, but they have risen less than inflation. There have not been any massive evictions or anything like that, and there is just a lot more of properties for tenants to find, and landlords are more comfortable offering their property. So, again, something magical and probably that you don't know. Free market reforms work. It's unbelievable. We didn't know all this in Argentina for a long time. And this is, I was preparing for this on Friday, and this is literally from Friday, just to show you the kind of zeal of reforming and anti-bureaucratic zeal that the administration has. They plan to present by the end of, this is a small thing, but I think it's a very important detail. By the end of the year, they want to present a project for which you won't have to renew your driving license anymore. Every 5 years, you get a driver's license. That means that you know how to drive, supposedly. So every 5 years, you can go to your doctor. It's not that you have to go to a public doctor at 3 a.m. So they take you, at 7 p.m. No, you just go to your doctor. Your doctor, gives you a certificate that you're fine, and that's it. You submit it online, and that's it. And you continue driving. Small thing. The devil lies in the devil is in the details. Small thing, but it shows you the kind of, making government citizen-centric, moving government out of the way, and making things easier for everybody. And I'm about to finish. What's this? This picture, by the way, is Milei last week gave like the 1 year, let's say, anniversary speech. So, what's coming? In a nutshell, deeper chainsaw. I should have added, not an actual picture because but let's say going, I won't go on all the topics. We can talk about this later. You can write me. But a few things I want to mention. For next year, Milei has announced that he wants to scrap 90% of... Argentina is a tax hell, by the way. Argentina is literally a tax hell. He wants to scrap 90% of the current existing national taxes. By the way, this would be great to also do with a flat tax reform like the one we are advocating, but that's again for another discussion. But this is a very good step. I was telling you about the different exchange rates. Well, the administration was very prudent. Of course, that needs to be dismantled, and it has been dismantled, let's say, in installments. He has announced that it will be completely dismantled, the kind of controls that there are to exchange rate. Argentina is a country with a very difficult history. There were fears that there could be some sort of run against the peso if this was, dismantled from one day to the other. It's going to be dismantled, and it's going to be dismantled very soon. This, I was surprised. He announced on, there are already talks that Argentina will sign a free trade agreement with the US. It would be fantastic. And this is also very interesting. Argentina has 3 functioning nuclear power plants already, and they plan to build more. Energy, for security reasons and for other matters, is a very important issue. And also, the government has ambitions to make Argentina friendlier to data centers, to AI, let's say, investment. And so it's important. And, let's say, he's definitely taking a different road, for instance, like the German Greens. Let's see who's right and who's wrong. We'll see. So, and now really to wrap up. Who is Milei and what does he want to achieve? And, I'm using, this is from November 30th, sorry. He was on the cover of the Economist. It was a very interesting interview. And, since I'm using The Economist, let's use The Economist for the response of who is Milei. Mr. Milei is often wrongly lumped in with populist leaders such as Trump, the hard right in France and Germany, or Viktor Orban in Hungary. In fact, he comes from a different tradition, a true believer in open markets and individual liberty. He has a quasi-religious zeal for economic freedom, a hatred of socialism, and infinite contempt for the state. Well, it took The Economist 1 year to find out this. It's good because 1 year ago, they're slow learners, but, they got there, they saw the light. That's great. I hope other people also see the light, but again, that's for another discussion. And what does Milei want to achieve? Again, he was saying this during the campaign, and I think he's doing everything in order to fulfill this promise. I am not asking for your vote to give me power, but I am asking for your vote so that I can give power and freedom back to you, the people. If Milei is successful in this, I think he will be, by the way, but he could claim, and he will claim, hopefully, a spot, on the Mount Everest of titans, great reformers, great liberal reformers like Mardlar or Leszek Balcerowicz here in Poland. Let's hope he achieves this. And thank you very much for your attention.
Federico, thank you so much. But before you leave the stage, don't put back the microphone. I have 2 questions for you, just to maybe spoil your good mood just a little. Recently, there has been a lot of talk about statistics of poverty in Argentina. A lot of people on the left claimed that Milei reforms resulted in increased poverty. This is the first question. The second question, a lot of what Milei wanted to do was blocked, right? And it has to go through Congress. And we all know that Milei has a pretty weak political support in the Congress. So will that change? And if not, how Milei will overcome this?
Yeah. Thank you, Sebastian. About poverty, a few things. Firstly, Argentina was very poor to begin with. Secondly, the previous government did, like I told you, they spent probably $10 billion just under $10 billion, not pesos. I mean, if it were pesos, nobody would care. But $10 million on their own re-election campaigns. They did an absolute disaster. Inflation was 25.5% when they left office. So that, let's say, with an already, let's say, knocked down country, that was very difficult to change. Of course, Milei at the beginning, I mean, and you know it, you know it here in Poland better than anybody. At the beginning, these kinds of reforms are painful. Milei has cut national public spending approximately by 35%, and has fired only 35,000 employees. I think he could be more. I think he could be more radical about that. But of course, that was going to have an impact. But if you see, that was, by the way, a mistake on the Economist article. I think you can see already that poverty is diminishing. For instance, the unification of the exchange rate and how now it's easier to import. There are many things that you can access cheaper than, so particularly for poor people, let's say the power of the money that they have in their pocket has grown in power. So I don't think, even this year, I think the poverty rate will be lower if we measure it to the worst of what the previous government left. Milei has a tiny minority in Congress, very small, because he comes from a new party. He just went into politics three years ago, but he has been extremely successful, Sebastian. Particularly the basis law, it's called a law, but it was like a package with many things that he wanted to change and many, let's say, faculties that he wanted to gain in order to introduce change, was approved. The opposition has not had any victories, let's say, against Milei. They tried a few things, but they couldn't. He has been very politically savvy, in way more than even I am a staunch Milei supporter, but way more than what I expected. So I don't see, of course, there's always a threat there, but so far, let's say, the Milei reforms and the Milei agenda has been put forward. I'm not going to say no problem, because I'm sure for them it's brutal and they're losing years of life, but they're doing it somehow. So no, there is no, and next year there will be midterm elections. This is dynamic, of course, but by now, Milei is after 1 year since we recovered democracy in '83, Milei is the most popular president ever since we got democracy. After applying the chainsaw, he was not giving, granting money. So that tells you something about the trend of what we can see.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Wielkie brawa dla Federico.